Hello friends, welcome back to the Rayo Moon Oracle. I'm Rayo and today we are continuing our Tarot Discovery series with card number 20, Judgment, our second to last video in the Major Arcana in this Tarot Discovery series. So pretty excited to get started today. I've got 3 cards for us and we'll go over the original right away imagery and get in our keywords, other meanings, look at the cards, and then get into reversals at that point after that. So for keywords of the Judgment card, we've got karma, consequences, judgment of course, value, evaluate, forgiveness, reborn, reckoning, cause and effect, change, honesty, forgiveness, and reincarnation. So looking at the original Rider-Waite imagery, we see the angel Gabriel blowing their horn to call and resurrect all the souls so they can be judged in that kind of final judgment. It's a very biblical imagery, coming in with the mother and father and the child all raising out of their graves and having their arms up towards Gabriel and like ready for their judgment, their reckoning in this case, whether or not they're going to go to heaven or hell for the rest of their eternal lives. Very, very biblical, very Christian imagery in this card for sure. Not one I'm also super attached to in the original Rider-Waite imagery, but understanding the purpose of it and building out spirituality, we see all the different ways this can kind of pan out with our keywords and in different ways. So in terms of numerology, it adds up to 2. Your 2 plus 0 is still a 2 in this case. So that is that duality, that rebalancing of things. It ties in with the Justice card and the High Priestess, which makes sense with the numerology, and it's definitely the interesting mirror for justice, I think. And also at this point in the Major Arcana, we've gone through 2 full cycles, right, of 0 to 9 and 10 again and everything. So we've gone through 2 full cycles, and that first cycle has a lot of positive cards in it. And then the second cycle kind of has a little bit more negative cards in it. And that shows that duality aspect as well here with positive experiences, positive cycles we go through, and the negative cycles we go through. So the duality in life, the duality in ourselves, the duality in our experiences, and the duality in this card specifically for Judgment and how it comes in. In terms of astrology, it is tied in heavily with Pluto. So we get that resurrection energy again, the underworld, that death and reincarnation here. And it is very big with the fire element as well. So that if you think about being judged, right, and being judged poorly, your actions being poor, and that fire comes in with that kind of burning and reincarnation and reckoning and kind of like Phoenix reborn energy there. So common symbology we see in this card, the coffins are pretty common from what I've seen. So again, that resurrection, that death, that coming back from the dead, coming in here, that rising again for Judgment Day. That family is kind of common imagery as well. So that's kind of interesting for being judged at all stages of life. All are judged, so everybody, no matter their age and gender, sex, race, anything, everybody is judged in the end in this case, and that we see that at all stages of life, right? Anybody can die at any point in time, and then that death coming back in, and especially if you believe in reincarnation, all these different lives, different stages of lives we go through. So finally, we kind of get that like angel, devil symbology in this as well, that positive, negative, that heaven and hell is here and present in a lot of cards as well from what I've seen. So common meanings or other meanings I've figured out for this card. So it's asking us in a lot of ways to like rethink our situation, right? So it's our consequences have actions, so we're getting judged for those. So you have to think about the situation you're in and what you're doing with that situation. So we're talking about facing consequences. This can lead to spiritual awakenings, breaking out of a rut, speaking or seeking the truth, and like that personal freedom, right? So if we are looking at our lives and everything we've accomplished or anything we haven't accomplished that we want to, and how that judgment's coming through, definitely gives you a different perspective on life, and therefore that spiritual awakening, that enlightenment comes in. So we get that personal freedom, we get renewal, rebirth, past actions determining future karma, right? So that karma is heavy in this card. That's kind of what I was getting through with a lot of research, is that the karma coming back through. It's like, okay, how have your actions been? Are you going to get judged for them in a positive or negative way? How's that karma going to build out into future lives, right? So Then with this case, we get improvements, we get that change of perspective, we're answering the call. So in terms of spiritual enlightenment again, right, and that's perspective changing, or answering this bigger call we have, this bigger calling, and changing ourselves and like really working on our spiritual growth and doing what we're called to do. So that actions having reactions, or actions having consequences, and making sure we're listening to our conscience. So that past coming back, so we get absolution, and then it's a level up at that point. So that past life lessons and resurrection are all really heavily tied into this card from what I've seen and what I've been learning about with this card. So it's just really being judged for our actions kind of constantly and consistently in cycles and different stages of our life at different points, right? If you feel like you're not in a space to... you're not doing what you feel like you're supposed to be doing, that's that judgment energy coming in. So our 3 cards I pulled for us today. First one comes out of the Light Seers Tarot. Nice focus on that one. So with the picture that's going to be popping up here, I actually kept the camera flashing because I really liked the way the light was coming out of the person's hands here, and it really felt like that spiritual enlightenment and evolution here as well. With this card, we definitely see the freedom, the calling of the soul, answering the card, right? So you can look at it in terms of like her soul being called by the angel Gabriel and this Archangel Gabriel from the original Right Away imagery, or just answering the call of her, like her spirit, her purpose that the universe has given her, and answering that call, right, in whatever way. So it could be in terms of coming back into like having that death process and coming back into the bigger overall energy, or just like, hey, I'm finally stepping into this power, into this ability, having this awakening here, right? So I liked that card because, and with the other couple cards I pulled, having very different imagery for what judgment is and how it can portray and be portrayed in the cards and in our lives here. The second card I have for us comes from the Nightmare Before Christmas Tarot, which is Judgment. And we see Santa here with his naughty and nice list. And I thought that was a cute, interesting way to portray this judgment energy. So Santa, it's the judgment energy that's presented to us when we're very young, right? So being naughty or nice, and if Santa's always watching us, right? Always paying attention. We parents use it to threaten kids sometimes, where it's like, okay, you're not going to get a good present this year. You're going to get coal in your stocking if you're not nice. If you're naughty, instead, Santa's going to bring you coal for your stocking, or as a present, right? So the way judgment's always presented to us, even when we're little, is very kind of interesting to think about, and a little messed up, honestly, but it is what it is. So it's just something to kind of keep in mind. But that judgment energy is present even when we're really little, and judgment sounds like a very harsh word in a lot of contexts, in a lot of situations, but the way there's always balance, right? It's a way for the universe to balance everything. So if you think this card is named other things, I think at different points in time, I think it's been named Resurrection or something like that. I can't remember for sure, but this judgment energy is that honesty. It is that rebalancing. It is that reckoning where it's like, okay, hey, your actions have consequences. And Santa's naughty and nice list is an easy way to show it, and with the Nightmare Before Christmas imagery, which I thought was really cool, and just a different way to kind of show it, right? These are two very different styles showing the different aspects of judgment here. With our final card is from the Santa Muerte deck. I just love this, always love this deck. So the Santa Muerte here has much more similar original Rider-Waite imagery. So we see that kind of skeletal bird figure here with that kind of taking place of the Archangel Gabriel. We see somebody in the coffin as well here. It looks like a child, honestly. It's a very smaller person by comparison, and we see the other 4 other skeletons, and them representing the different elements, like there's lots of different things they can represent depending on your interpretation, right? So it's like, okay, you got 4 different elements here for air, earth, water, fire. Air, earth, water, fire. You can think about it in different ways. You communicate, you're different, like there's so many different ways and different perspectives you can look at it, and how they are overseeing and standing over this figure that is being judged in this case, that is being brought back to be judged, to see how their actions are being presented and how their actions were perceived, and whether or not that is going to turn into a positive or negative for them. With the skeleton in the coffin here, and since it does look like a child, there definitely has a kind of more positive energy despite the imposing nature of the four figures and the skeletal angel figure here. So super interesting, and I just love the Santa Muerte tarot because it just gives lots of imagery over and over and over, and like the more you look at it, the more you can dig into it and find different symbols to look at here. So with the reversals of this card, the reversal was interesting with this one because it was both the like, okay, if judgment's coming in the upright, then it's a positive judgment on your case. You did well and you're being judged positively. But if it's coming out in the reverse, then you're being judged negatively. So that was kind of interesting. But then also in terms of like spiritual evolution here, the fear and the like not answering the call is kind of the other way this reversal can read. So we have fear of failure, infantile behavior, crisis and insecurities. We have oppression, self-loathing, repeating mistakes. I thought that was interesting in terms of the karma and the life lessons and being judged on those lessons, right? The universe presents lessons to us to learn, and if we don't go through them the right way, then we're doomed to repeat them. And that's where judgment's coming in here. So we have repeated mistakes, which is a lack of self-awareness. So then we get delays and we're ignoring the call, or we're too scared to answer the call. So that call to a higher purpose, a higher state of being, a area of growth in our life. So then we can't fulfill our potential, or we're judging ourselves too harshly, or feel like we're being judged too harshly. So this is where we need to like pause and like process lessons. So if the judgment card's coming out in reverse, and depending on the way the spread is in the tarot and what the question is for the reading, might be like, okay, hey, what's this lesson you're supposed to be learning? Let's pause and actually like integrate this lesson here, so that way you don't have to repeat it again. You don't have to go through the same process over again. So we actually need to take the time, take that pause, take that breather. So it's like, okay, what do we actually learn here? What is the actual purpose of this lesson? What is supposed to be learned? What do I need to get from this? And what is going to be best for my spiritual being and my higher calling here? So without it, we can't move forward. And then forgiveness plays a really big role in this as well, because if we end up stuck, if we can't forgive ourselves for a situation, if we did have something that we're being judged for more negatively or harshly, we have to make amends, of course, but then you have to forgive yourself at a certain point, and in order to move forward. If you never forgive yourself and give yourself that grace and forgiveness, then you can't move forward into the next stage of life. And that is when those delays come in, when we get caught up, and that's reckoning, and that like more what would be like the stereotypical biblical like kind of devil energy, I feel, comes in, because you're just doomed to repeat the same mistakes over and over and over again if you can't forgive yourself and let go. So very interesting, different cards here. Very interesting card in and of itself. So close before we get to that last final card of the world, and it's just really interesting to look at how everything's balancing out, and especially the numerology with the Judgment card. As I've gotten further into the major arcana and further into talking about the tarot here, the numerology is even more and more important, as I'm finding out, which is really interesting for how the other cards, it's like, okay, this last card, right, the Sun card related back to the Fool card, and the Wheel of Fortune and the Moon card referred back to the Hermit. So these ending of cycles and these, the way the cycles finish out and start again, and the process through, right? So at the end of the day, this is still the Fool's journey, right? We started with card 0, and it's this Fool going on this journey through life. So having gone through a positive cycle and having gone through like a more negative cycle, and being judged for their actions as they've gone through these cycles and as they're continuing on through life, and having properly learned the lessons from both, then we end up with our last card in the next video here with the World, which is all encompassing. So very interesting progression, and the story of the Fool here with the Judgment card. So That's all I have for us today, friends. It's been very interesting, and I can't believe we're almost done with this series finally. So I'll see you with the next video, The World. Please subscribe down below, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you next time. Bye.